Not forest, was not Amazon. Get that out of your picture. This was dry, arid country town in the middle of nowhere. I went to the chemist to get some tape, but I had no idea how to say tape in Portuguese. So I tried to describe what I wanted, and they looked at each other and came back with some paraffin plaster. I said, no. So I described it again, and they then came back with a syringe, and I said, no. Described it again. They came back with tampons, and wet myself laughing with that and said, no, I don't need tampons. Tried to describe it again, and then all of a sudden realised that the chemist was actually full of about 20 locals, and it turned into a game show where they all thought they could understand what I was trying to ask for, and they're beginning to shout out to all the people in behind the desk what they wanted. And in the chemist there, everything was behind the desk for security reasons. You couldn't actually just walk through and point to what you wanted. So people are shouting out what they think they wanted, and the poor people behind the desk are bringing all these things to the front of the counter, and you've got people saying no, people saying yes, me standing there looking at all these people trying to ask on my behalf. And finally, a young guy shut them up with a really strong whistle. And he looked me in the eye and he tried to, in Portuguese, he didn't speak English, in Portuguese, retorted what I think I had said. So I thought, perhaps this guy does understand what I actually need. So I said, yeah, I think so. So we went to the two women behind the desk and asked for it. And they looked at each other as if to say, I don't know if we actually have that. And they disappeared, and they came back finally with some tape. I said, yes, that's what I want. And the entire chemist went up in arms, and they applauded. So I handed over my 10 reals to the applause of about 20 locals, who then just disbanded, and I was left by myself in the chemist with my roll of tape. So it was a bit of a struggle trying to get through the language barrier, and sometimes it was funny, sometimes it was frustrating. It was frustrating when I got pulled over by police and they were asking questions that I didn't understand, and they get pretty aggressive because I should know the language because I'm in their country, which is the attitude some of them took. So got up and down. Yeah, saw a lot of different things. Saw a woman in Venezuela tried to walk through an open door with an open umbrella. And of course it got hooked. I mean, that in itself was kind of funny, but she then turned around and tried to rotate it and then pulled it through. I have a degree in mechanical engineering. Okay, so I'm not sure if you're up to it as not having degrees in engineering, but trying to pull a round object through a square hole, doesn't matter how many times you're going to turn it, it's not going to get through there. But she kept doing it. She did it 4 times, just rotate it, pull, rotate, pull, rotate, pull. I was standing there going, this is an insult to humanity. But eventually a hand came through from the outside and turned it on an angle and got it through. So many different things. Saw a lot of wildlife while I was walking as well, which is pretty awesome. Not particularly funny. Had a snake strike right between my legs and land on the other side of me. Just quickly run on. I was eating yogurt at the time, didn't spill a drop, so I was just pretty stoked about that. Injury-wise, as I said, I'm having surgery on both feet on Tuesday. That was a big problem itself. I'm a size 16 shoes, and I had to have my shoes ordered, and one time I had to wait 3 months, so I continued working with boots that had holes in them for another 3 months, and that was across Russia. It's not a good place to have holes in your boots. So I had to have warmers, special warmers in my boots to keep my feet from getting frostbite and from dropping off. What was I going to say with that? I had injuries. So I ended up I had both knees seized going across Russia, strained both Achilles tendons. Got salmonella poisoning and typhoid fever in Guatemala after eating some bad rooster. Make sure they're cooked, guys. I got food poisoning 4 times. I don't know what else happened. Most of the injuries I sustained were from people trying to beat me up to get my gear. They were successful once. They had knives, so I didn't fight back. And they stripped me of everything. So I think most of the scars were just from the people I met, just getting a bit afraid. I think the day after I'd been mugged at knife point by 4 men and had everything stripped clean, and went to a supermarket complex and bought all my gear again, and then started walking again the next day. And walking down the road and looked behind, there's a guy walking down the road behind me with a knife out in the middle of the countryside, not down the street. And he's getting closer and closer with this knife and thinking, okay, we're up for it again. And as he walked past me with a mango in his hand, eating the mango with his knife. So it took a lot to just get over the scars of meeting the people there. But thankfully managed to make it all the way to the end. And had a great surprise right at the end. When I was walking across Spain, about 8 AM in the morning, foggy morning, very misty, walked around a corner and my mum and dad were standing there with their backpacks on, ready to walk the last 3 days with me. So it was pretty cool to meet up with them as well. There actually weren't times when I thought I couldn't go on. There were times when I thought I'm going to die, like I can't go on physically. I think the most I walked was 81 kilometres in 1 day. So at the end of that, and it finished at like 2 or 3 in the morning, I'd begun at 5:30 that morning, so gone all the way around. So the times like that, but a very strong belief in what I was doing. So I was walking and praying for unity and stopping all the churches, and a real strong belief that the world is broken, and this was a first step, but it needed to be a very strong statement. So just because there's a very strong belief in why I was there, and that a strong belief that God was in it, that God was there, that it just kept pushing, kept going forward. There was one time in France where I just wanted to be back home, but it's because I was bored. I was out in the middle of nowhere, bored. I was very close to the finish. I was thinking about getting back home, and my parents are from Tasmania, so thinking about getting home to Tassie and maybe going skiing or something. And I just thought, gee, it'd be nice to be home. But there wasn't actually a time, even through the muggings or the shootings, or 4 times removed someone from my bed, woke up in the middle of the night to have a guy trying to get into bed with me. Removed. One time there was a chapel across the road, so I dragged this guy by the neck into the chapel and locked him into the chapel, and he spent the night with God. I was really looking forward to getting back home, but there wasn't actually a time when I thought, this is it, I want to go. There were times where I just wanted to be somewhere else, further down the road perhaps, away from the people throwing stuff out their cars at me at 100 kilometres an hour. Had a guy throw a full beer can at me, and that went straight between my legs as well. I mean, you really got to hate someone to throw a full beer can. I mean, throw an empty one, you can understand, but this was a full can in the middle of the night. That was because they thought I was American. I had no idea what I was doing. It's just that I was a gringo, which means white man go home. So, yeah, I was very happy though to finally touch down on home soil. That was great. So, yeah, I'm going to be continuing to pray for unity and continuing to work in mission field, as I said, here in Perth, at least until the end of the year, and heading up to Bali perhaps. Sorry, not to Bali, I wish. East Timor at the end of the year, so we're going to build some schools up there and continue working around the traps. But as I said, if anyone is interested at all in the Life in the Spirit seminar, which is where it began for me, I was at uni studying engineering and did a Life in the Spirit seminar, and it really changed my direction. I began to work. So I was working as an engineer for a while, but then just straight into mission field. So there's a few people handing out cards. Interested in it all, then please grab one, have a think about it, come along if you want to. It really was life-changing. So I was walking around the world, but I wouldn't advise that. I counted every faith under the sun. It was funny. I met people who were Christian, who rejected me completely, and people who were complete atheists who took me into their house and fed me and clothed me, and it was all up and down. Mainly met people of a Christian denomination, so Catholic, Orthodox, Pentecostal, Evangelical, non-denominational, interdenominational. Met people of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Mormons. Actually had some really interesting conversations with people who were Muslim in France. There's a very strong Muslim influence in southern France. And it was funny, the Catholic Church, I'm Catholic, the Catholic Church had said, we don't even trust you, we don't trust you. They didn't trust me because they didn't believe me when I said what I was doing. I said, yeah, right. And they basically shut the door. And actually met up in a pub with some Muslim guys having this big conversation about unity. And they at the end were saying, yeah, we'll be praying with you as you continue on walking. And they hooked up a place for me to stay that night. It was meant all walks of life, and not just faith-wise, but everything from multi-millionaires to people living. I slept on the street with homeless people sometimes. So cross-denominational, cross-socioeconomic, the whole deal. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, even though you're a fluid audience.